I'm joined by Richie Gray. Richie, it was in your role as the South manager I wanted to chat to you tonight. Quickly, we'll look back before we look forward. South against Barbarians game recently seemed to have been a great success.
Yeah, it was a great success. I think, first and foremost, testament to the players. There's very rarely now you'll ever read or hear that an amateur team beats a professional side. It just, I think it'll be few and far between over the years to come. And, there was slight worries when we took this fixture on that you want to kind of protect the players as well. But I think it showed that, we've got some outstanding talent in this region. We've always had some outstanding talent in this region. It doesn't go away. And, they just sometimes need maybe a different stage to express how they can go about playing the game. There was some phenomenal performances from individual players, but collectively, when you watch the highlights and the kind of reruns of the game again, just a really good performance that befits a jersey that's world famous.
Absolutely, yeah. But I'd say the question is, where now? I mean, is it going to just be a series of sort of one-off exhibition matches that we see, or are we going to be able to find something more meaningful competition?
Yeah, I think the biggest problem is becoming like the kind of Harlem Globetrotters rugby, where you might play a couple of sort of glamour games every year, and everyone involved in it doesn't really want to see that. The problem we've got at the moment is it's really out of our hands. It seems to be that the South has kind of got its the whole thing in order. It's got great backing from the Border League clubs, because first and foremost, if the clubs weren't behind it, then it couldn't happen. And I think the clubs quite rightly have asked their players. The players have said, listen, we want this. And you've just got to make sure that it's done properly. You could get carried away and say we want to start playing 4 and 6 fixtures a year, which just would be ridiculous, because at the moment the structure that we are in doesn't allow for that. Or all of a sudden you'd be taking players away important league games going about, and you do not want to get down that road at all. There's been a real sort of feeling of unity behind this side from the very start, and that's why it's worked really well. But we're kind of out on a limb, really. South of Scotland, we seem to have got our house in order with this side. Good backing behind it. Everybody's forward thinking about it. But the other districts, really, we're waiting for them to try and come up with something similar. We don't know if the discussions are taking place in those districts. We're quite a tight-knit community down here, so we can call everybody in pretty quickly and get things sorted. It's always been a strength in some ways of Border Rugby. But, the bottom line is you're really wanting the Premier 1, Premier 2, Premier 3 groups that meet up at Murrayfield to kind of bring onto the table and say, right, come on, let's get a district championship back. That's really the key thing here, because you don't want to be taking players away from their clubs who are playing week in, week out in, what we're hoping to try and create is a higher intensity environment for them. But, you're coming close to the split now. This is possibly the perfect time to go into a district championship. And I've said this before on the show that, the only real way that you can pick a Scottish amateur international team, which has got caps behind it, and which is, it's an important team to play for when you represent your country. But what you must do is you must have a structured way of getting there. And I think at the moment that way maybe isn't spot on for me. If in my own opinion, you should be able to play in trial matches, which would be an inter-district championship, and then you would get a true look at a kind of democratic picked Scottish amateur team. I think that would be the way to do it. So a district championship's absolutely crying out. And also, I think what the South Babas game showed was there's players. You don't need to be playing Premier 1 to be a good player, And there was players playing at a Premier 2, and I look at the Jed lads. There's even players down in Premier 3 and National Division sides. There's a lot of quality out there, but you'll only ever find out if you bring them together and play against another quality side. Somebody always said to me that you'll only know if a player is quality if he meets quality head on, and that's it's always been a great quote. And let's hope that it's not really the South, it's more Scottish rugby finds a place for a district championship.
So how's that going to come about? You're saying you're not sure if those discussions are taking place in other districts, but presumably South representatives are putting some sort of pressure on these other
I don't even know if it's pressure, Bruce. I think it's just, putting it on the table that, listen, the South of Scotland concept, the district team has worked really well down here for the 2 fixtures that we've had, Northumberland and the Babas game, 2 fantastic crowds. The bottom line is the players love playing in it. At the end of the day, it's for them, and they're getting a chance to show what they can do on a higher stage. So really, it's about sort of initiating discussion. If that's, they don't want to force it, because at the end of the day, you can't force things through. You've got to want to do it. But I cannot for the life of me think that if the same sort of opportunities were given to players in the Glasgow clubland, Edinburgh, and I know North and Midlands Caledonia area has always been very strong in trying to resurrect the team, but it really needs people to do it, and it needs people to drive it, and really for me it should be driven nationally. It shouldn't really need the districts to drive it. I think the rugby union should be looking at ways of different progressions for players to come up through the system, and I think a district championship would be a very good one indeed.
Yeah, I think these things, do they not often get caught up at sort of what you might call committee level and don't get put to the players? I can't imagine players in these districts don't want to play at that.
I think
that
also
level.
The big thing is the biggest hassle in some ways, with Scottish rugby, and it's been ongoing for a long time, is just the fixture planning and making sure that everything has got a kind of seamless progression. Now, there's big talk of the league changing and the numbers changing, and it's quite kind of ironic that we keep evolving. If we say evolving, maybe I think evolve's the right word, because you're always trying to go forward, but there's been so many reviews, and then things have happened and it's not worked, then they've changed this and changed that. The bottom line is there's key things must happen in the year, and bringing the best players together to play against the better players in the district, it's really a no-brainer, isn't it? And it should be done at a number of levels, not just not just the South of Scotland senior level, because you want to play against the best players at a time in the season. You want to pit yourself against them. It's also fantastic for selection, and don't tell me that every single player's thrown in the scrap heap at 21, 22. There's players that come through later on in life, 24, 25 year olds, so there might be pro players in there that could go on to play for our pro sides as well.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, personally, I've never bought into the idea that it's a stepping stone as its main purpose, but for a few it would be a stepping stone, but for the vast majority it would just be the pinnacle of their career.
The pinnacle of career, you're right, Bruce. It'll give you a chance to turn around and say, listen, I've played for my district, and I've worn the jersey, and for others it's the chance that I've maybe been missed out just down the line slightly, which can sometimes happen. You look through injury, and sometimes players hit a rich vein of form slightly later on in their life, so we're a small country, you can't afford to miss anybody, and I think in the district setup that would definitely help.
Now, let's say that there is no interest elsewhere for a district championship. What other options have you got? I mean, I'm going to throw in things like the British and Irish Cup, which currently the clubs go into. Is there an option for a district side in there?
Yeah, I suppose in some ways it comes down, to the border clubs themselves. At the moment, Melrose are in that, because obviously it's all down to the placing that you have at the end of the year. I think the British and Irish Cup will only get tougher, because most of the teams you're up against, I thought Melrose did really well last year from a border point of view in some of the results they have, but it's only going to get tougher in that league, because most of them are linked into the professional setups, so you have to be careful there. Would a district be the better way to go? Some will argue that, as has gone on for years down here and all over Scotland, the kind of club district debate. I remember way back in 10 odd years ago it kind of reared its head. Is it the best way to go? I'm not too sure. I think the great thing about the whole South concept is it's been bought into by all the clubs, so there's never been a sort of dissenting voice at all. Everybody's bought into it, the players have been happy with it, and that's the way that it's gone through so smoothly. So a British and Irish Cup's another option. I think first and foremost district championship for me, and then see what happens after that.
And another one which I'm way ahead of myself, things like the Amlin Challenge Cup, we don't have a Scottish representative in that. I guess that would be a massive jump for a side like the South at the minute. Definitely. I think there's sometimes you get some people saying we could play one of the touring teams' backup sides on the Wednesday night and whatever. No, I don't think you could. I think the gulf between, and I know I've said already that an amateur team beating a pro team, the Babas side. But if you were to play a backup team from Australia or New Zealand, you're seriously stepping into major unknown territory. And to be honest, I've just come back from New Zealand, and the way that world rugby's going, even on the tier 2 and tier 3 nations, the strength and depth of these countries is huge. So I think you've got to kind of just take a back step, and sometimes just everybody calm down a little bit, and you've got to make sure that you're putting the district team up against like for like, or then you'd be doing the players a disservice. Now, of course, it's important to keep the ball rolling. Northumberland is a side that we played not that very long ago. I think the last game that was supposed to be played against them got called off. Is that another option just to keep us getting games? Yeah,
definitely. I think that would be another option. The other thing too is you don't want to get carried away and start playing, as I've said already, game after game. At the moment, it's fitted in well, and even the Babas game, to be honest, in between two league games Saturday to Saturday, was a big call on the players. A couple of players got injured in that game as well, which is always going to happen. Rugby's a a game where, you know, you've got to go for it, and sometimes there's injuries, sometimes there's not. But, you know, I think it'd be good to get another game this year just to keep the momentum going. You know, roughly around about Christmas time, or maybe even at the end of the season. You know, you could maybe play a glamour fixture again at the end of the season, so you've got one in October and one at the end, just to keep momentum going. But I think, you know, as we've said already, it's more than that. I think we need people, you know, up above in the sort of corridors of power to have a look and say, right, listen, there's a real need for this, let's get it sorted out.
I agree 100%. It should be driven from Edinburgh. I mean, have you had any discussions whatsoever with...
No, not yet, but, you know, it does come up. You know, I'm kind of out of that a little bit now, kind of political kind of set up, but you know, I know it has been discussed, and Premier 1, Premier 2, Premier 3 have all got groups that meet regularly, you know, to decide on what's going on. But I think Scottish Rugby Union at the moment will have a number of other issues to look at. You know, I know they're discussing the whole sort of development process again, and, you know, what's the right way to go. And usually what you find, Bruce, is after every World Cup there's a massive shake-up, and, you know, are we doing the right things in our development and our programmes? So, you know, people will be trying to put those answers to the questions at the moment. So
don't expect any announcements imminently, but there is work going on.
No, there will
the
be. You know, there's work going on, and I think I feel sorry sometimes for the spectators and the players more than ever, because I think they would be desperate for another game immediately. But I think we've just got to, you know, hold back. Let's see what's going to happen, and, you know, we'll kind of look after ourselves at the moment. We might try and get another game. I would like to think this season we'll definitely have one other game. It's obviously fitting in with other clubs as well, because it's always tricky when, you know, they've got games and league programmes that you've got to try and fit into too. But I think it's just watch this space at the moment.